If you're going to get into doing maple syrup, a hidden expense that you must be aware of is rubber work boots. And this is just my situation here where this whole yard is low from it being previously a basement and it was never filled up high. And then he drives his trucks on it, so then there's ruts that get filled up also. But this is 2 days of melting, maybe 3. The ground was still frozen, is still frozen, and we've got standing water because there's just no way for it to drain. So we're working on emptying our sap buckets today, and to keep kind of the whole family dry, we are doing this together, Trey and I, because he's a great worker, and then it keeps the baby and Bethany from getting wet from the rain. And we've got our tote parked right there in the driveway. So there's how we're storing the sap again this year. You make sure you use a food grade tote that had a food item in it. You don't want an oil-based item. Sugar, syrups, and things like that are really good for that if you can get them from a bottling company, like Pepsi or Coke, apple juice factories that do the packaging. That's a good way to go. I know over by Grand Rapids, there's areas that do a lot of food production over that way. Not so much in Lansing. So a lot of people go out of state with a truckload, get enough for themselves, and then sell off the extras. Of course, the buckets are food grade too. But just be aware that you're going to need mud boots for going out in the spring. If you're going in the woods, it's going to be muddy. Yep. The sap ran like crazy last night and earlier today. It's the afternoon. So we're getting these emptied out. I got some rainwater dripping. So some of the sap is a little more yellow, but it's fine. It'll all just cook off. Filtering is real important. I have my milk strainer. The buckets get real dirty from splashing, and some of it does end up in the sap buckets also, right? Yep. So we have a cheesecloth in the bottom of our milk strainer. So we'll go over and show you that. That's my Trey. He works. Works real good. So here we got our milk strainer. This is a stainless steel milk strainer. It's the type for a big size milk can. You don't want the small kind for like a quart. And it's got the stainless steel mesh. Normally there's a paper thing for the milk companies you can get in there. I've got a box, I just don't know where they're at, so I put a cheesecloth in there. But you can see there's a lot of little bits of stuff. If you get into using reverse osmosis, it filters out debris, and you can't have this stuff go in there because it'll clog those filters real fast. And they cost hundreds of dollars for a new filter. Yeah. So we got a little discoloration from rainwater off of the bark, landing on the tops of some of the buckets, but for the most part, you want it clear and clean. Some of the videos from last year that I made of like yellow sap were after rains and the leaves will turn them colors. So I'm up by the road and I don't want that blown away. So I just take that off. It's raining, so I always keep my cap on. And I've got my discharge PVC pipe off, but while I'm not draining this tank, I keep that cap on just in case the valve fails at all. And my locking lever did break off. That's what that blue piece is there. So someone could real easy come and, you know, move it, and the kids, now because that's off, could accidentally open the valve. So I always keep my cap, and that's a 2-inch NPT thread, I think it is, or NTP, and keep that capped off so you don't have a spill, right? A trick that we learned is you always keep a couple of buckets at your trailer. That way, when you go to your first tree, you're not coming back and then back to that tree. I take 2 empty buckets to the tree with me, and I'll fill until the buckets are full, or the weight for this guy or the other guys to carry, and then I bring back the full buckets. So for me, walking around this big old farm, now this side of the yard, there had been a house here before, I told you. They mounted this one up a lot better, and I think that's why the trees do better on this side that were planted at the same time, these 3 maples, because of the different fill material that they used, where with this one, they just kind of filled in the basement. They burnt the house and kind of threw it in what was left. Someday we could have a little pond up here if we wanted to, or a seasonal pond to reduce that. But that dirt that he brought in, I had to bring that tote out here with a 2-wheel hand cart, and it's just muck. It's so, he didn't have it filled in with gravel enough, and the dirt froze, so it was still kind of mounded up and not spread so well. It's a mess. It's a real big mess. But these buckets all emptied, ready to go. He got me a bunch of hickory. They had a tree cut down, and it's got to get picked up and brought over here. And then I got a big load of firewood too, back behind the barn. Trey and I need to get to split. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the start of our maple syrup for this year. Always plan that it's going to be rainy and wet, and you got to just do your best to do it. It's fun, but you're definitely out in the cold and in the rain too. So you got to enjoy it, you got to love it, and we love our maple syrup. We had maple syrup on our cream of wheat this morning. We have it in our coffee, and we have pancakes regularly, pancakes for dinner. I like my pancakes for breakfast. So I'm gonna get this place closed up and get on back to my basement project.